push your content out. That algorithm is not as good at connecting what you create with an audience that wants to see it. That's where
So
YouTube beats everyone out
I have
just
to
as
admit, he's got a good point here. This is Doug TenNapel, and this is his Doug in Exile platform here. He's been just Doug TenNapel, and he only has like 24, 5, 6, 7,000, whatever it was, but well under 100,000 subscribers. And now his main, I would call this his main channel. I think he was bigger on Facebook, but I never was part of that. But Doug in Exile just came back today, and he's talking about the best platform for free speech, which is YouTube, and how he's comparing how um how he has the ability to spread the gospel more you know on YouTube than um let's say if he was working for Disney, or if he was working for, I forgot all the companies he's worked for, but he's done a lot with animation and cartoons and things like that. And you can't do that. I wanted to work for a government agency. I won't name them, but the guy that was going to work with at the government agency turned around my first day. I came up to greet him at his desk. He turns around and he says, "Are you LDS?" And I was like, "What?" So it was a shock to me that he could get away with that. But that's Ogden, Utah, at Hill Air Force Base. So a lot of they get away with a lot of stuff here, especially the further back you go. And this was like the late 2000s. But that's the first thing he said to me. He says, "Are you LDS?" God, make me throw up. So.
by technical terms, if you actually have the freedom to speak, is true that it's bigger on X under Elon Musk, Twitter, X,
I don't know what he's
YouTube. We've
talking
all
about.
had many channels crushed and destroyed by YouTube right here
Yes.
on my home platform.
Yes.
This is my employer. This is where I make all my money. This is how I put my kids through college. So even I have to be very careful what I
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't do animation. He doesn't. He does art. He's got an art exhibit up in Idaho right now. And let me get a different still
say
of
here, and
him.
that's
Um, and so, but he's not as big as he used to be in the arts and animation and entertainment industries, because they found out he was conservative, and they just got, I don't know what they call that, black washed or black pilled, or I don't know, wherever there's a guy, my first job, he said he got, I forgot what it was called now, but he was an electrical engineer, and went to work for this company called EGZ Electric, and they basically made it so he couldn't get a job in the town. So whatever that's called, I don't know, but
fine. That's normal. Look, when I worked at Nickelodeon or worked
that's
for
it.
Disney, I couldn't walk in there and just start shooting my mouth off and saying anything I'd say. I
Yeah,
couldn't just go in and
that's
say,
normal.
"Hey, Trump is great," and shout it all day. They'd go, "You know what?
You're
You're
fired.
fired." Now, in YouTube's defense, I've been able to share the gospel on this platform
Bingo.
with more people than any other time in my life. That is, I tell people to repent to Jesus Christ, to turn their life over. I never got that liberty when I worked at Nickelodeon. I never got to do that at Disney,
Nope.
Universal, Warner Brothers, video game companies. I never got that at Sony or Sega. I got it here on
Right.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Now, there's obviously the brand of free speech. By technical terms, if you actually have the freedom to speak, is true that it's bigger on X under Elon Musk, Twitter,
Yeah.
X.
You can say Trump, Trump, Trump
They
all
allow
day.
you to do and say anything. And of course, then you go on your feed and there's like people being killed, hit by cars,
Crazy
drunk,
stuff.
throwing up. There's a lot more porn, things like that. They are cracking down on porn, which I appreciate. But there's less policing of what you say. My problem with X is I've been on that platform since 2007, and they will not push your content out. That algorithm is not as good at connecting
True.
what you create with an audience that wants to see it. That's where YouTube beats everyone out just as a tool of connecting content with an audience. There's no bigger, more powerful tool. Someone else may come up with one. There isn't one yet. And that's what I love about YouTube. They may not be as free with the brand, but with what they do allow you to say goes out to more people. And if mass media, if the mass counts for something, size of audience counts for your message, even though it's a slightly weaker message, YouTube wins free speech in my books. So I still love X, Facebook's just way out. They censor our content. They destroy everything. They are not good. They will never communicate with their users either. Much of this pressure campaign was secretive, more bully than pulpit. Social media platforms are a private business. The First Amendment restrains government and protects private citizens or organizations. But the allegations and the evidence in the Murthy case are that federal officials were violating those protections, just doing it indirectly. There you go. Much of what appeared to be social media platforms independently deciding to remove COVID-related content was really the government coercing and pressuring Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms to do what the First Amendment forbids the government from doing directly. This is why my colleague Cindy Crawford calls censorship by stealth. And by the way, I put Google on that list.
I can move over here.
If you ever look up pro-life stuff or put in the word abortion, there will be 20 articles will come out trying to connect people to clinics for what.
Wow, this was July 7th.
Way down there will be alternates.
Working with YouTube to clear out an old banned channel.
The women crisis pregnancy centers.
That's this channel, Doug in Exile.
But again, another way that YouTube helps is I take a percentage of my income and we tithe it.
This just came back today. That's dated July 17th, 2024.
Crisis pregnancy centers. And there are children walking around now because of the money we donated because you watched. So free speech and pro-life rules. It can rule even on YouTube. Of course, none of these federal bureaucrats were actually tasked by Congress with the job of policing online speech. Congress
so glad she's gone.
No doubt, to the chagrin of some, never passed a law empowering any agent to pressure social media companies to censor speech. But the evidence in Murthy is that dozens of executive branch employees nevertheless felt empowered to interfere with private citizens speaking in one another on private companies' platforms. That is, we have the FBI and the Justice Department directly emailing Twitter employees. This is pre-Musk, giving them accounts.
That's pretty cool.
That they wanted removed or tamped down. Those emails came out in the Twitter files. So it's been documented. It's still legal. I think it's still bad when free speech is tampered, but a company is free to do what it wants with its platform. And that's what we're dealing with now is these companies are getting so big and the way we communicate is through these social media platforms that companies actually have a bigger effect on free speech even than our government.
Look at this, all these videos 20 minutes ago.
Would challenge all of the social media platforms. Do you want your brand to be censorship
taken down 9 months
or freedom?
Ago.
Do you want your brand to be you going in and micromanaging arguments people say, parties they prefer, positions they prefer? Or do you want them to be able to be more free to say things? There's always going to be a danger of more disinformation going out, and that's the way it goes. But just remember, Democrats call misinformation anything Republicans believe. Okay, they call Trump a tyrant, and Nazi, and Hitler. They would take him out if they could, using that same justification. So it's not that. I'm just saying, in general, I think X and
the thing I don't like about the the right or Republicans or MAGA is what they do with people like Michelle Obama, calling her Mike, saying that she's a man or a trans or something like that, and denying them that fact that they had children together. And then they also, you know, talk about what was the other thing? Oh, there was the Antichrist back in 2008 that Obama was the Antichrist, that whole business, or was it 2012? I forgot which. I think I was more in tune with it all in 2012 with the guy from Utah who I was supporting um, for president. And I just thought, oh God, he's not the Antichrist. But that's what the right would do. They would say, oh, he's the Antichrist. And what was he? There was one more thing. Oh, U.S. citizenship. Yeah, he's not a U.S. citizen, and that doesn't resonate with anybody. I mean, you can't win anybody over with the calling her trans, and he's not a U.S. citizen, or all the other boogity boogity stuff like the what you call antichrist crap. I mean, no one's going to change their mind on to vote for the opposing candidate when you're got arguments like that. And that's what I don't like about MAGA and the right is when they start acting like that.
Elon Musk, his branding with Twitter has been more successful than most companies at the brand being free speech. I just don't think the speech goes very far, but I could say anything I want on that platform too. What do you guys think in the comments below? Which brand do you like the best? X, Facebook, YouTube? Any people using Instagram? Locals? Rumble? I feel bad for anyone on Rumble. It's a terrible platform. I'm Doug in
It
Exile.
it does. It sucks. Rumble sucks. I will admit that. I post my golf videos to Rumble. It's just not a good platform. Not like this. This is something. I love YouTube, but I don't subscribe anymore to YouTube. I I just don't want to.